We're going to learn about comparatives and superlatives. This is big news for us. It might just be the best topic we learn our year. At the very least, it's better than most. Hopefully, you'll get that joke by the end of this slideshow. Okay, moving on. So first off, logically, I think we should just start with an adjective review, more generally. What is an adjective? What adjectives have we learned? What types of adjectives have we learned? All right. Hint. What I'm looking for here is we've learned adjectives of a couple different declensions. Do you remember what we call those two groups of adjectives we've learned? Try and retrieve it. Pause the video if you need more time, because I'm moving on. Yes, 212 and third declension. I've thrown a couple out here for your viewing to ring a bell. Pulcher, pulcra, pulcrum, right? We can have a US or an ER. 212 adjective. Second declension, masculine. First declension, feminine. Second declension, neuter. That's why we call them 212. Then we got third declension, calere, caleris, calere. Three terminations, masculine, feminine, neuter. Fortis, forte, masculine and feminine nominative. Neuter nominative. That's why we call it two termination. And felix, felicus, masculine, feminine, neuter nominative. And then felicus is the genitive for all three genders as well. So we call that one termination because it only has one nominative form for all of them, two nominative forms for all three genders, and then there are three separate nominative forms for all three genders. All right? We have all those different types of third declension adjectives. Good stuff. Try and see now in your notebook. It would be a great time to pause the video and see if you could decline bonus or felix, felicus, for example. See if you could decline that, at the very least in the singular. Okay? I'm going to move on, so pause the video if you want to do this really valuable retrieval exercise. Or, just keep watching if you don't value my suggestions. Okay. All right. So here I provide the forms for you. Note altus, alta, altam is really nice. It's just declined like the second declension masculine in the masculine, like the first declension feminine in the feminine, and like the second declension neuter in the neuter gender. All forms we've learned before, nothing new to see here. And so that's why we all love 212 adjectives. Now, for Felix, it's a little bit trickier, more tricky for the third declension, namely because here we have in the ablative singular eyes with macrons instead of, I made one mistake right here. We have eyes with macrons instead of e's that we'd be used to seeing. We also, if we had the plurals, which I don't have them out here, we would have ium in the genitive plural instead of the usual um for the third declension. And we'd also have felicia, ia, in the neuter plural, nominative and accusative. Okay, so just some reminders that all third declension adjectives are essentially have all the I stem endings. Okay? All right. Why do we need to have three different genders for each adjective? Can we pause and think about that? Well, we need to have that because an adjective is going to agree with the word it modifies in what three things? Did I hear a gender? Did I hear a case? And did I hear a number? I hope I did, because those are the three things. Gender, number, case. All right, so we need to be able to be every single gender in order to match, like a chameleon, the noun that we're modifying. All right, finally, the topic at hand. This is huge. Now we can compare things in Latin. Everything that you want to do. Tell your friends which one of them is more beautiful than the other in a language that none of them will understand. The possibilities, they're endless. Okay? Comparatives and superlatives. Before we get onto the Latin side, though, again, let's just go to our prior knowledge. What do we know about comparatives and superlatives in English? What do you think? Are there any common endings that we see when we think about comparatives and superlatives? Pause the video and think about it. Otherwise, we're moving on. Taller, faster, stronger. Comparatives. You are taller than him. Is a comparative sentence, right? Or you could just be superlative. You could be the tallest. Ever play the game Superlatives? It's an amusing activity. At the end of your high school career, normally you get a superlative. That can happen sometimes at the end of it. soccer season. That's probably where you most likely heard the term before. Tallest, fastest, strongest. Note I've put in bold here ER and est because we have some common endings in the English language that we stick onto positive, the positive form, right? Tall or fast. We stick these endings on and in order to make them comparative or superlative. And I mention this because we're going to do the same thing in Latin. Notice, altus becomes altior, fortis becomes fortior, celer becomes celerior. This is really nice because altus is a 2-1-2 adjective, and fortis, forti, and celer, celeris, celere are third declension adjectives. But notice, for both of these types of adjectives, we have one rule for all of them. We just stick an eor, the Latin version of er, onto each of these adjectives. We drop the us and stick on your, right? Or we go to the stem, because fortis, forte, the stem for that is fort, and we stick on an ior. The stem for celer, celeris is celer, and so we stick on an ior. The stem for acer, acris is acra, and so we stick. That would be the comparative for acer, acris. Right? We just stick it onto the stem. If we go over the superlatives, we notice the same thing happens. We stick issimus now onto the stem, fort and alt. We just stick an issimus on there. However, for er adjectives like celerimus or pulcher or acer, we actually just leave their er endings in place and stick a remus. Oh, I put two r's there, but it's actually just one r. A remus. We stick a remus onto the end. Okay? Finally, let's keep trucking. I want to go back and just really zone in on that US versus ER adjective superlatives by asking you to try and make all of these four words make their superlative form out of them. You can look back at this slide if you'd like, pause the video, and then look back at this. But take a moment now and try and write out these in your notebook somewhere on your sheet. And then I'm going to move on, so pause the video if you want to do this review. Yes, pulcher ends in an ER, so we just add a remus onto the end. Pulcherimus, pulcherimus. Tristis does not have an ER, so we go to the stem, tristis, triste. The stem is trist, and put on an issimus, tristissimus. Acer, stem ER, add a remus, acerimus. Tutus, no ER, stem is tut, T-U-T. Oh, there should only be one T, apologies. Tutissimus. Okay? All good stuff there. All right. Last but certainly not least, we're just going to take a quick look at declensions. Note that when we went back to here, altor, altius, I probably should have mentioned this. Does this look like a 2-1-2 or a third declension adjective? And hopefully you would have said third declension. Your next question, if you're thinking of third declension adjective, should be how many terminations does it have? Remember these guys? So do we think alter, altior, altius is like which of these three? Huh? Well, I would say it's like fortis, forte, because altius can't be a genitive. So you know that it's actually, right? We don't have an IUS genitive ending for nouns, at least. And so altior is actually your masculine and feminine nominative, and altius is your neuter nominative. So that means that this is a two-termination third declension adjective. All right, so going back to our declension slide, well, actually, before we go that, going back to here, these are superlatives are a little bit easier to see, right? What type of adjective do they look like? 2-1-2, and they are, and they're totally regular, right? You just decline them like 2-1-2 adjectives. Looking at them side by side, right? 2-1-2, we see that. This is totally what we would expect. It's going to look exactly like what we would expect in the plural as well, in terms of endings. It's a little bit funkier with altior, One, because that Altius is hard to remember as the neuter nominative and neuter accusative comparative adjective, because we lose out on that eor, which in every other form is a dead giveaway as comparative. So we want to keep an eye out for that. That's tricky. The other thing is, notice this ablative singular. Remember, when we went back here, we had I's in the ablative singular for third declension adjectives. For some strange reason, comparatives keep their E ending. They also have none of the I stem endings. So they're not going to have IA in the neuter nominative and neuter accusative, plural. And they're not going to have an IUM in the genitive plural. They're just going to have autorum, autorum, autorum. Okay? All right, I hope this video was helpful. I've given you some exercises to get some hands-on practice. Make sure you actually apply this knowledge, so it's active learning, not passive learning, and you can get it locked in. Okay, so why don't you go try those out now. Reference the video if you need to. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon.